Hey guys, it's Doublelift, 8-time LCS champion, and today I'm here to answer your league questions. Starting with the first question, we have... Having played against many Korean agencies, why do you think there is such a skill gap? How can we get better players in NA? Probably the fact that they don't speak English. The more English you know, the worse you are at League. That's a proven fact. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so actually the real reason is like just culturally, everyone in Korea takes it a lot more seriously. Their work ethic is superior to Western players on average. That is not the case on every single Western player, but I think the sacrifices they're willing to make are just a little bit more, and just like cutting into sleep, cutting into physical health in order to be the best possible player does in the long run like lead to like slightly better performance. Let's move on to the next question. We have, why do you think Faker is the GOAT of LoL? What does he do that nobody else does? Faker's been playing for a long time. Competing since like season 3. He won his first Worlds in his like first year, which is pretty crazy. What does he have that no one else does? I mean, to be honest, he's just born different. I think this is like an answer that maybe not a lot of pro players are willing to give, but he has an unbelievable level of talent where he needs to put in less work to be better than everyone else, but he is where hard work meets talent as well. So it's like he works the hardest and he's unbelievably talented, which makes him like peerless, essentially. He's obviously got like ice in his veins as well. The fact that he's able to perform so well at the highest level consistently like that, you can only get there through experience and also just being a little bit different mentally. All right. Next question. When should I roam versus stay in my lane? That is an extremely hard question to answer and really depends on your position. On AD carry, almost never roam. Supports mids, you should roam as long as it makes sense and you're not giving up too much. And top lane, once again, you should probably almost never roam and just mostly utilize TP and like proxy farming. Once in a while, you can make a move. Also depends on the champion that you play, but I think just factor in what you're losing when you roam. Is it a wave? Is it 2 waves? Usually at 2 waves, the roam is not particularly worth it. What stage of the game it's in. Very early on, each individual wave is like a more percentage of your overall XP and gold. So, you know, let's say there's only been 5 waves. Well, missing 1 is essentially missing 20% of your total farm and XP. But by wave 30, you know, by like 15 minutes into the game, missing a wave or 2 is really not that big of a deal. And it also hurts a lot less when plates are down. So I would recommend just honestly watching how a pro player plays your champ and get a feel for when it's appropriate to roam and when it's not. All right, let's see. How should I review my own gameplay? How did you do it as a pro? I always, since I was a kid, actually did like replay programs and just like watched my own gameplay back. It probably stemmed from like insecurity. Like I just really wanted to watch myself play and see what mistakes I was making because I was like very kind of hard on myself. But I think you need to go into it with the mindset of trying to figure out what you're gonna do differently next time. Like make it actionable. So how should you do it? Really just watch your own replay and just think, wow, I didn't like that about my game. I'm going to change that, and in the next game that I'm gonna make it a conscious effort to do this differently. You don't want to mindlessly watch your own replays. That is actually generally going to be a waste of time. And then, you know, how I did it as a pro is I would try to extrapolate a bunch of things. Like I would watch my opponent as well, and this is an extremely important skill as a pro, is called learning from observation. When you watch somebody make a mistake or you watch somebody do something really well, you either copy what he's doing well or you tell yourself that you're not going to make the same mistake as your opponent. That way you don't have to go through a painful loss or make a mistake to learn. And I'd say the best pros are able to learn by observation, which means they don't need to make a mistake to learn how to not do that. They don't need to like get up to a level where like they're making great plays step by step. They can just immediately get there by watching somebody else do it. And those kind of shortcuts is really important when you're watching your own replays. So let's move on to the next question here. What's the biggest mistake you see low-elo players make? Wow, I'm actually doing a mid challenge. This is perfect. I'm doing a mid challenge right now where I just climbed through low-elo, and I gotta say the number one mistake that I see like low-elo players make is missing waves. Funny enough, they don't like value the wave as much, but like fundamentally League is not played around, people think League is played around towers or League is played around objectives and stuff, but like fundamentally, League is actually played around the waves. The waves are your source of power, basically. They're how you get XP and gold, and denying waves and getting waves yourself is how you pull ahead or force your enemy to fall behind. And how do fights happen? How do all-ins happen, right? How do solo kills happen? How do ganks happen? It all happens around the wave. So I think low elo players generally, they prioritize different things, or you know, they don't have like the greatest understanding about how to manipulate the wave to be good for their champ. If you're playing melee, you want to pull the wave and you want to go for an all-in, right? A really long all-in fight as a melee champion. If you're playing range, you want to poke and harass safely until they're low enough where they can't all-in you. I think that does it for the first set of questions. All right, part 2. First question of part 2. I'm stuck in a low rank. How do I climb to diamond? I get this every day on stream. I can't tell you. I really can't. I think you can tell yourself. Rather than asking others, I think you should be able to identify, what part of your game is lacking and just work on that. The greatest thing about being lower rank is there's so many ways that you can improve. If you think about a challenger player, how do you go from top 300 challenger to top 100? Those margins are so small, they're so hard to find. But if you're talking about going from, let's say, silver to gold, or gold to plat, or plat to diamond, there are so many ways that you can improve. So really just focus on anything that you find interesting, whether that be farming, mechanics, map awareness, whether that be improving your champion pool or your game knowledge or any of that stuff. You have so many ways that you can get better at this rank that it's really just honestly up to you. And looking for others for like a shortcut answer, it's going to be really hard because I don't know how you play. Almost nobody does, right? Only you do. So really just go back in your games and think about, why am I losing? Am I dying too much? Am I not farming enough? Am I like just constantly getting camped by the enemy jungler? In which case, you're probably not, you're probably positioning pretty poorly throughout the lane. Are you tilting really hard? That's going to immediately make you a lower rank than you probably should be. So, yeah, just focus on that. Is it better to one-trick a champ or learn a few? I'm going to go against the grain here. It's better to one-trick a champ. Learning a few champs takes a few times more effort than one-tricking a champ. Now, once you get to a certain point where you're really comfortable on a champ, you can expand out. But a lot of people will give it, I think this is bad advice for new players or players trying to climb, is learn like 3 or 4 or 5 champs. That is going to take forever, especially if, like the average league player, we're like 30 now. We got, 5 wives, 20 kids. It's not possible to spend that much time learning all these champs. You only have a few hours a day. Sometimes you only have a few hours every few days to play the game. There's no way you're going to learn a few champs. I think there's already so much to learn within just one champion. So just find something you have fun with, stick with it, and you'll slowly get better. All right, here we go. Why do I win lane but still lose the game? Probably you're throwing. I'm just gonna be honest. I think you're probably throwing, and that can make itself known in 2 ways. You could be winning your lane and then dying. That's what people think about when they think of throwing. The other way that you could throw is a little bit more nebulous. It's by winning your lane and then not doing anything with it, being too scared to die. And that is actually a really kind of silent way that you can play poorly, is by winning lane and then not having enough game impact afterwards. And I'm sure everyone has kind of played with this kind of player that statistically he looks really good, but in terms of his game impact, they seem kind of invisible. I think you need to be willing to take risks. You have to stay aggressive if you want to become a better player. And the moment that you kind of let the game happen around you, is the way that I like to say on stream, is just like watching the game happen, being a spectator in the game, you've essentially thrown your lead. All right, here we go. I never know when to take objectives. Is there a rule? Modern League 2025, you always take the objective. The game has been simplified quite a lot in terms of macro. I'd say 5 to 10 years ago, the game was a lot more complex, and there was a lot more decision making about whether an objective versus a tower versus waves versus whatever it is, getting ahead by yourself versus kills. There was more of a balance between all these things. These days within League, I'd say the macro has been dumbed down a little bit, and objectives are just the king. If you have the opportunity to take Drake, Grubs, Atacon, or Herald, it's almost always going to be the best decision. In fact, like sometimes, in pro games, people will lose 3 or 4 players, but get the objective, and that was a positive trade for them, which is kind of crazy to think about, because back in the day, if you got basically virtually aced, but you got the objective, it was definitely not worth it. Okay, here we go. Are there any in-game settings I should change that would level up my game skills? Oh man, this is gonna be very nerdy. I'd say turn shadows off. That's a pretty big one. I see a lot of people make a mistake of. Go to game and then put a check mark on attack move on cursor. What that does is it makes your A move click the closest champion to your cursor rather than closest to your champion. It's kind of carry over from like Warcraft 3 setting, but it makes more sense to be closer to your cursor. That way when you attack, especially on AD carry, when you A click and you miss by a pixel, you'll still attack the correct target. You want to show mana costs. I was watching Lena play. She didn't have mana cost showing. That is very important, so you can calculate how much mana you need for an all-in. There's just so many settings, honestly. Like, I think those are the 3. I'm going to stop at 3 before I get ahead of myself. Those are the 3 that I think you should change. All right. Move on to the next set. Here we go. Next set of questions. Boom. Should I learn combos or just focus on basics? both. No reason you can't do both. And I think both are really fun as well. I think when you play champ, you want to learn the combos, but what's going to carry you is the basics. I could know zero mechanics on a champion and basically play like a grandpa, but I'll still be able to hit at least diamond or masters just through the basics alone. The combos, icing on the cake. How do I get better at team fighting? That is hard. That is hard, especially with 170 champs and 5 billion skins. Getting better at team fighting in modern day is actually very hard. It's very hard to tell what is going on. I think what helps is to be so comfortable on your champ that you don't need to think about what you're doing and you can watch what all of your teammates and opponents are doing. That is absolutely key. So it's kind of like you want to be able to zoom out mentally from what you're doing, and how you play your champ should be automatic to you. So get really, really cozy on the champs that you're good at or the champs that you play. Rank the best champions for ADC bot lane. Wow, that is tough to say. I mean, this is going to change based on the patch, but I feel like right now, Varus, Jhin, Kai'Sa are probably my top 3. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. I would recommend you don't play Senna in solo queue, so I'm going to stick to stuff that you could actually like play in solo queue that would be strong. Varus, Jhin, and Kai'Sa are almost like jack of all trades, just like generally good. Good against dive. Good against, like, have decent utility. Kai'Sa doesn't have the greatest utility, but she has good damage and works well in solo queue. Those champs are just good. I have a special place in my heart for Jinx as well. So I'm going to put Jinx in there for solo queue specifically because you need one inter on the enemy team, then you get a reset, and it's a montage. How do I carry as an ADC when my team is inting? You do not int with them. That is the entire role. Basically, AD carry, you can't afford to die. You can't afford to make mistakes. Unnecessary mistakes, and I just said you can't afford to die. You can't afford to die for free. You should still be aggressive as an AD carry, even though you're the squishiest player in the game. But how you carry is by getting to the point where you can 1v5. And almost every AD carry in modern day has like some way they can like 1v5 the game. I would say just don't die with your team. Stay alive, keep farming, and wait for the right opportunity. AD carry is a lot about patience. What's the best champ to play in the current meta? Wow, that is going to change. Maybe by the time you watch this video, this is going to change. For jungle Pantheon, I would say. For mid, Talia is very strong. These are some hard, sometimes some pretty hard champs to play. For top, I think Ambessa and Rumble are very strong. If I had to pick one that fits every comp, maybe Sion for top. So like Sion, Pantheon, Talia, very strong picks in competitive. Also strong picks in solo queue. For AD carry, I think Jhin is just good in all situations. He's not the best at anything, but he's just generally pretty strong. And then for support, we've seen a lot of Nico at this tournament. I like playing with Nautilus. I'm a Nautilus enjoyer. So I'm going to go ahead and say either Nautilus or Alistar for support. And I know this said, what is the best? But some of them just have 2. They're tied. Alrighty, next set of questions. And I messed it up somehow. This is quite a reveal. Whew. Here we go. How do you stop tilting after bad teammates? Like mentally reset and still play well the next game. Take a break. Take a break. Sometimes I need a breather. Sometimes I need to watch a YouTube video or just 5 minutes to cool down after a really particularly horrendous game. Also, it's important to just realize it's just a game. If you're not having fun, might be time to take a break. But also, if you feel like you're just constantly frustrated, constantly getting tilted, playing the game, you got to change your mindset going to solo queue. The more you tilt in solo queue, the worse you're going to perform and the more you're going to tilt. It's a snowball effect. Like, basically, tilt creates more tilts, and you're just going to keep losing and spiral. And here we go on to the next one. When is it actually worth dying for a trade? When is it actually worth dying for a trade? I'm going to assume they mean like for a trade kill, because it's never really worth dying in a trade of HP, but it is worth dying for a trade kill. When is that worth it? When you're getting dove, so when the jungler, enemy jungler, mid, support, whoever is roaming on you, and you're able to get a trade kill, that is so big because the enemy team has committed resources to go 1 for 1, which is generally pretty even. If you're getting dove, your wave is probably going to be in a bad spot by the time you get back, but you got to breathe a huge sigh of relief that they didn't just get a clean 1 for 0 dive off on you. Another way that it's worth dying for a trade is when you have a big wave that will get denied by the turret, evaporated, and your wave will be pulling back. That's a good time. And the last way is probably when somebody has a big bounty. And that has a big asterisk to it because I think some people are really gung-ho about dying for bounties, but it's not always good. But if someone has a 1K bounty and you're trading 1 for 1 on him, and sometimes in some cases even 2 for 1, it is usually worth it. I've been playing a lot, but feel like I'm not improving. What do you recommend to actually get better in bot lane as an ADC? I don't know what, one-size-fits-all strategy is going to work for you, but what works for me is I like to learn by experience. So I like to go in, get a feel for the game, or for the champ, or for the strategy that I'm trying to do. And then I like to watch somebody else and see how they do. And that's gonna give me perspective that I would never, it's like ways that I would never play myself. So I think the first thing you should do is get some hands-on experience. Establish a baseline with a champ or a build that you want to do. So let's say you want to play Vayne, right? And then after you get those few Vayne games in, watch some high elo player, challenger player, pro player, play that champ in solo queue and try to incorporate elements of what he's doing. This is kind of going back to earlier, I was talking about learning through observation, and you need to, if you want to improve quickly, you need to be able to like watch what somebody else is doing and take some mental notes about how you're going to do that yourself. Faster you kind of can get up to speed with a challenger player, you're going to get closer to challenger. What do high-ranked players do in their game that low-ranked players never do? I think for me, the biggest sort of tell of a high-ranked player is that they know what is going on the map at all times. They know what their jungler is doing. They know where the enemy jungler could be. They're aware of every roam timing and the best wave manipulation to make them ungankable or to make their opponent very gankable. And it's a lot less to do with mechanics than you might think. You might think that a high-ranked player is just like faster physically or just able to control their champion a lot better, which most of the time is true. But that's not the main reason why they're high-ranked. Actually, the main reason why they're high-ranked is because they understand the game at such a high level that they never get put in bad situations. And I'd say low-ranked players are constantly put in vulnerable or abusable situations, but they don't get punished because their opponent is also low ranked. And that is usually when you end up people saying that they're hard stuck. It's because they have abusable habits that they don't know, they're not aware of, and those habits are getting taken advantage of by their opponents. I would highly recommend, like going back to what I was saying earlier, just watching how a high ranked player thinks about and looks at the game by watching them. And then try to ask yourself always, why are they doing that? Why did he push the wave there? Why did he recall there? How did he avoid that gank? What is he thinking there? That is going to get you to the next level. All right, the last 2 questions. I'm hoping for some juicers. What's your favorite play ever? Break down why. When I think of favorite play ever, I'm thinking about my own play from my career, I guess, which is my favorite play ever because I was a part of it. The Season 6 Summer Finals, Lucian versus C9. Why? It just has a special place in my heart as kind of like I was working really hard to be a great player. And I think I was a big reason why my team was able to win that game and that series. And I'm really proud that in that moment, it felt like hard work paid off. And, it is like a fun play for me to like look back on and watch the cast for, because the cast is getting really hyped and the fight looks totally doomed and it seemed like an impossible fight. But I just really look back fondly, I guess, on that specific play. And yeah, I'm just proud. I'm very proud. And I'm just happy we were able to win because C9 was a very hard opponent to beat that season. Very, very hard. I think that series could have for sure gone either way. I muted my whole team and started winning more. Is communication overrated? Yes. One thing I hear a lot that is completely false is bad comms is better than no comms. Completely wrong. It should be the other way around. No comms is better than bad comms. When you are getting tilt pinged or communicated with by your teammates, I'd say 99% of the time on online games, what your teammates are saying is completely useless. It's either going to tilt you, it's wrong, or it's just not helpful to how you want to play the game. So I'd say communication is horribly overrated. And one thing that when I was on a team, we wanted to weed out immediately was bad comms. Bad comms is useless clutter, incomplete information, saying like, oh, it's bot's so gankable here. That doesn't help, right? Say like 80 carries, no flash, my wave is pulling back. But in terms of solo queue, how this would apply to like you guys, is muting your whole team is actually a great idea. It's not as fun because you don't get to like feel like you're part of this online game, but muting your whole team is probably going to help you climb faster and tilt less. And you know, I don't even think that having pings on is necessarily a good thing because people are just spam pinging each other, acting like idiots online. It could be better for you to just focus, lock in, and keep the comms muted. So that's funny that that's the last one. Play League like a single player game. Might be better for you. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed that, you can check out another video of Faker answering questions somewhere over here or under here.